Welcome to Brier's Music Showcase. I'm Bryer Cisneros and welcome back to another video. And in this one, I'm continuing my 70s series, and now we're up to 1974. So if you happen to stumble upon this series for the first time, just a quick reminder, I'm only restricted to what I have in my collection. So of course, if I don't own it, it's probably not going to be shown. Of course, this is also just my opinion. So if there's an album that you think deserves to be in the top 5 or should at least be mentioned, feel free to leave a comment down below. So 1974 is a pretty good year, I will say. I heard there's some people who say 1974 was a pretty weak year in terms of the early 70s, at least in terms of the pop music, from what I gathered. But that doesn't mean there was like no good albums that came out, because there's some great albums that came out, which I'm going to showcase right now. So without further ado, let's begin. Starting off with number 5. Now this is probably the most obscure album in this list, but I don't care. I love this album. I loved the album the first time I heard it for the first time, and that of course is Turn of the Cards by Renaissance. So Renaissance were a pretty, they kind of had a following in the early 70s, but this is probably their most well-known album. Again, not many people know about them, but yeah, regardless, I love this album right away. It's progressive rock and symphonic rock, and just blends together so well. It just sounds so beautiful, so lush. I love the sound of it, and I love Annie Haslam's vocals. I mean, she has a very cool sounding vocals. You don't hear many female singers in progressive rock, and this is a great example of female prog rock singers. So of course, here is the record itself. As you can see, and you have the cards here, and then of course you have the hand holding him up, and it's pretty cool. This was a Hypnosis cover, by the way. Here is the record. Here it is. Nice little label there. And now let me go ahead and shift over to the CD, which I do have. So here we go. And it has this white spine, which is pretty rare in a lot of these types of releases, but pretty nice. On the back, you have the members of the band right there on the cards, which the vinyl does have. Let me just quickly show that real quick. So here, what's interesting is that this one's more black and white. There's not much color into this, but still looks pretty nice, and it gives you the track listing on the corner. Hopefully that's in frame there. But yeah, very nice. Go ahead and put this to the side. And now let's go into the CD again. So here, but before we look at the packaging, but first let me go through the tracks themselves. Starts out with Running Hard, which is a great opening track, just sets the tone of the album and pretty much sums up the band pretty well. And then you have the 3-minute song, I Think of You, which could have been a single. I don't know if it was a single, but it definitely has a good kind of more commercial sounding to it. And again, the vocals just beautiful, gorgeous, love it. Things I Don't Understand is great, another 9-minute track. Black Flame is great, another good epic sound. Cold as Being, and then the 6th track, which is the final song, which is the pretty much is the grand finale of it, and that's Mother Russia. And Mother Russia is a phenomenal song. Again, has great different sections, and I love the whole melody to it. But yeah, it's wonderful. So now let's go over the packaging. So as I mentioned before, it's in this rare white spine. You don't see this very often. I already showed in the back. So let's look in the disc. That's what the disc's like. Kind of a cool design. Very nice. Then here, of course, is the back of the booklet. I think this is just a pamphlet. Yeah, this one just folds out. So here's the first side. Just gives you some of the basic information. So, and on the back. Another very notable thing about Renaissance was that the drummer, well, he's not on the keyboard. Well, he didn't play on this album, but this band was formed by, let me see, I'm trying to remember if this is right. Just looking through the track listing, because I know Jim McCarty, because he was a member of the Yardbirds, and I think he was involved in the formation of the band. Of course, I think by that point he's no longer in the band, but it's kind of interesting. There's kind of a Yardbirds connection to Renaissance, which is kind of fascinating. Yeah, definitely a band I need to look more into in terms of their history, because I definitely want to dive more deep into them, because I only have 2 albums by them as of right now. But yeah, I've enjoyed what I've heard, and yeah, this is one of my favorites of 1974. Next up, for number 4, we have another fantastic album from this band. To many people, it's their best album, and I wouldn't argue with that. It's probably my second favorite, but regardless, love it to death. And that album is Crime of the Century by Supertramp. So here we go. Here's the record, of course. So this is their 3rd studio album. And yeah, this is kind of where the planets align, shall we say, because they released 2 albums prior, which did okay. But this one was probably people really started to take notice by this point. So again, the record, very cool. On the back right there. Very nice, very classy. This is an original pressing, by the way. It sounds fantastic. The production is just immaculate. And then, of course, you have the band on the bottom there. Don't know what that's supposed to mean, but pretty nice. And the album cover is very, very cool, too. Again, supposed to be a guy imprisoned in space by himself, which would be a pretty intense punishment, I must say. But yeah, switch over to the CD right here, of course. I mean, School sets the tone. I mean, Supertramp are known for their kind of cynical, kind of somewhat dark lyrics, but yeah, but that's a fantastic song. Like, they're very keyboard heavy, but yeah, they've had some heavy moments. Bloody Well Writes, another pretty well-known song from this album. Hide in Your Shell, Asylum, Dreamer, Rudy, if everyone was listening. And then it closes off with one of my favorite closing tracks, and that is, of course, the title track. Just a cool, epic way to close out the album. Just love everything about it. So again, check this album out. It's definitely an album experience that you definitely want to check out. So yeah, now let's look in the CD packaging. So open it up. Here is the disc. Pretty plain, but it's kind of cool that the band logo is kind of looking like a constellation almost. That's what I think, at least. You take off the disc, you just have all their suits on the ground. Again, kind of a continuation on the glare. There we go, like there. But now they're on the floor. Little funny. Now on the booklet, again, just nothing different about it. You open it up, you just got the lyrics here. All right, so the whole band, you have Bob E. Benberg on drums and percussion, Roger Hodgson on vocals, guitar, and pianos, John Anthony Helliwell, I don't know if I pronounced that well, but he's on saxophone, clarinets, and vocals. Then you have Dougie Thompson on bass and Richard Davis on vocals, keyboards, and harmonica. All right, so there you have it. That is number 4 of my top 5 of 1974. Moving on to number 3. Here is another album that I love, and it's by a female artist that I love as well. And that is Joni Mitchell with her 1974 release, Court and Spark. Sadly, I do not have a record version of it. I know, kind of sad. But yeah, this is probably my favorite Joni Mitchell album. It's just like, you have that folk sound, but she's starting to incorporate a little bit of a jazz influence. It's not a jazzy album, I don't think, but it has little flares of it, which I love. And I think it matches really well with her voice. It just comes together. The lyrics are still immaculate. I mean, I'm just going to go to the track listing real quick. Chord and Spark, the title track, good starting points, just sets the tone. Then you have the hit Help Me, which I love that song, one of my favorite songs ever. That pretty much sums up the whole album for me, personally. Free Man in Paris is really good, which goes into people's parties. That's a very underrated song, just a song I relate to pretty much. Just a very, I love the guitar sound of it. And I think Joni does the guitars on that song, and yeah, love it. Which blends into Same Situation, which is really nice. Carl and Hill is very cool. Good rhythm to it. Down to You is nice. Just Like This Train. Troubled Child. Yeah, it's a perfect album for me. And then look at the back. Nice little photo of her there. Yeah. So now let's look at the packaging. This is kind of a more simpler packaging. Not much to say about it. But here's the disc. Yeah, nothing to write home about. So, yeah, pretty plain. And on the inside, you just got, you know, lyrics and stuff like that. Just see if there's anything else. I mean, they give you who played on the album, and there's a ton of people credited, so yeah, I'm not going to go through all that. But it's kind of cool. Let me just see if there's any big names I know I'll mention. David Crosby and Graham Nash were on here. They provided some backing vocals on Free Man in Paris, which is pretty cool. And David Crosby appears again on Down to You. All right. Got a couple. Robbie Robertson, rest in peace. He provided some guitars on Raised on Robbery, which is really cool. Larry Carlton, who of course is known for his work with Steely Dan, also provides guitar on Free Man in Paris. And I think that's about it at the moment. Again, there's probably more, but again, I don't want this video to be too long. But overall, again, like I said, perfect album by Joni. It's my personal favorite at the moment, but that's number 3. And for number 2, here's another favorite album from this particular band, and I mentioned them before in the previous episode. Well, not the previous episode, but in 1972 specifically. And that band, of course, is Yes. Yes, I mean Yes. And the album in question is Relayer. I mean, just look at it. Just a gorgeous cover. I love this cover. So let me switch over here. So again, I love the white of it. It just has a very cool atmosphere, and which perfectly sums up the album. The album just has this very cool, almost mythical atmosphere. Not to say this is a mythical album, but it definitely feels like it because, you know, with the horses down here, which is nice. And of course, we gotta show the gatefold. So let me just take this out real quick. So here, there's the back. Then we just open up, we showcase the whole artwork. So here it is. Hopefully that's in frame. Let me just do it over here real quick just to be safe. Yeah, very nice landscape. Yeah, I love it. Just a great, one of Roger Dean's best in my opinion. And then of course you have the inside, which I'll show over here, and just gives you the credits and stuff like that. Very nice. And then let me just show the record off. So here's the record. Nice little label there. I like they kept the snake in there. So here we go again. Very nice. All right, let's switch over to the CD. So here it is. Not as impressive, but you know, still cool to have on CD. I mean, there's only 3 songs, so it kind of follows the same format as Close to the Edge. But even though Close to the Edge is spectacular, I still love it. I just prefer this one a bit more for some reason. And big difference here, you have Patrick Moraz on keyboard. And Patrick kind of comes from a more jazz sort of feel. So this album kind of takes on a more jazz fusion approach for the most part. I mean, it starts out with The Gates of Delirium, which is a 21-minute epic. I mean, I love the pattern, just a song about war basically. But yeah, great different sections. It gets pretty heavy in some parts where they're going through the battle itself, which is just cool. And then you have the whole Soon section, which is just beautiful John Anderson vocal that just sounds so angelic. Just wonderful. Just one of Yes's best epics. Track 2, which is Sound Chaser, and that is the jazz fusion at its finest. Just they're going all over the place, like Chris Squire and Steve Howard just going all over on their guitar, on their respective instruments. Yeah, just absolutely. And of course the drums too. I think it has some of Alan White's really fantastic drumming on that one. He definitely kills it on that track as well. Then for number 3, you have probably the most underrated song in my opinion, with To Be Over. Just this beautiful closing song. The lyrics kind of, the lyrics mention just going down a river, just kind of just drifting, and that's what the song feels. You're just kind of just relaxing on this little stream. You're just going along with it, and it's just a very beautiful way to close out the album. So yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, it's splendid. Let's look at the packaging. There's the disc, kind of a cool disc, I must say. And then you have the booklet. I think this is another one that folds out, but it's cool that you still got the gatefold here, except smaller. Okay, then you open it up. Here you have more Roger Dean artwork, very nice, and then with the lyrics as well. And here on the back, or front, I should say. Alright, well, that is number 2 on my list. So, Relayer by Yes. So now, let's quickly showcase some honorable mentions.
Can it be said at any price this is just a little bit out, it can bring you up on. She's a killer queen, and I'm a true goes always on a weapon to grow, you know.
I know there's people who will be like, I can't believe you didn't make this number 1. Don't worry, Queen. You'll get your just dues in the coming years. Don't worry about it. Well, we didn't have to wait that long. Number 1 for me has gotta be Queen 2 by Queen, of course. So, yep, had to be. I mean, Queen, all-time favorite band. And this is one of my favorite albums by them. So yeah, iconic album cover just right off the bat, just cool, with the iconic Mick Rock photograph of them. I've done a video ranking their album covers. Of course, this was number 1. Let's quickly showcase. This is not an original pressing, by the way. This is a 2011 reissue or remaster. But yeah, here is the record itself. That's the white side. Let me just showcase the other side real quick. So, because side 2 has the black label. Again, supposed to showcase the white and black side of the album. Of course, the original pressing didn't have that, so it's kind of nice that they done it here. So just put this away. Let me just showcase more of this. So here is the back, real quick. Okay, what's interesting is that this does not. The gatefold's not like your typical. It's not like this. It's actually more like this, where you have to flip it down. So hold on. So like so. So you have this photo of the band here, all elegant and all that. And then you have the back, and then you have the bottom part here, which has the credits. Hopefully you can see that. Again, gives you the credits. And this, of course, I'm going to read the bottom part, which Virtuosos Castanets by Roy Thomas Baker, and Nobody Played Synthesizer Again. again, fitting that theme from the previous album. But yeah, there's the record. So now let's shift over to the CD. So here it is. Again, same thing as in the 2011 remaster version. But yeah, this is probably their most progressive rock album that they ever done. Again, they're not a progressive rock band, but this one definitely has the most prog elements in here. Starts out with Procession. Again, kind of a short like guitar intro. Then you have Father to Son, which is a killer song. I love it. Love that guitar work in that one. Very heavy. Great one by Bryan. Then it goes to White Queen, As It Began, which is a beautiful song. Again, Freddie's vocals on it, it's just so cool. Very, very royal, shall we say. Then you have Someday, One Day, which was sung by Brian May, and a very nice, kind of a good, slower, kind of softer song. I enjoy it. Loser in the End, which is a Roger Taylor song, and again, Roger's on vocals, and of course he has a very great rock sound, great rock voice I should say, which is cool. And that's side one, which of course was dominated by Bryan and Roger too. Then you have side two, which was all Freddie, and yep, it is as theatrical and operatic as you can get. Starts with Ogre Battle, still very heavy song, very cool. Then you have the Fairy Feller's Masterstroke, which is this kind of this weird, lyrically wise it's weird, but it was based on a painting that Freddie saw, which then blends into Nevermore, which is this very short but very sad, kind of a melancholic piano ballad, which is nice. But then you have the epic on here, which of course is the March of the Black Queen, one of my favorite Queen songs ever. It's the precursor to what they would do for Bohemian Rhapsody. There were just so many different sections, just playing with overdubbing, and that's where the story originated, where they overdubbed so much that the tape came back clear, almost transparent, and was basically on the brink of breaking apart. But yeah, they were really pushing the boundaries at this point. And then, it blends into Funny How Love Is, which, definitely to some Queen fans, that's the weakest song on the album, which, I guess, it's kind of the most kind of a 60s sounding flower power type of song, which, which I still love, I still really enjoy, but, some people don't. But then you have the finalized version of Seven Seas of Rye, which appeared on the debut album, but it was kind of an instrumental demo, I guess. But yeah, here it's fully formed, and it's just absolutely great. It was their first top 10 hit in the UK, and yeah, the piano intro alone just cements it as a classic. So yeah, it's number one for 1974 for me. But of course, that doesn't mean I'm an expert on this. So like I said, if there's an album from 1974 I didn't mention that you feel deserves to be brought up, again, leave your favorites in the comments below for 1974. And I look forward to 1975, because that is another very good year in music, I must say. So again, if you enjoyed this video, please give this a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until then, I'll see you in the next video. Take care, and goodbye for now.